Hello, my name is Morgan Motes and I'm a maker of things. Thank you for tuning in to my portfolio presentation. So I grew up in Blackwater, Florida, a small town full of fast food chains, a Walmart, and porn shop. In an effort to escape the small town, I began playing shows and showing my art in Gainesville, Florida. Gainesville is just about an hour away from Placa, so that place kind of became the first home to my work as I was there all the time doing it. On weekends, I used to bring all of my paintings and set up a little booth outside of the record store and sell them for close to nothing. Beyond high school, I attended Florida School of the Arts, a 2 year program that got me a bit more comfortable with taking myself semi seriously. I then got into camping and then got into UNF. As I grew an affinity to camping around 2016 or so, I began to see it influence my work. Small things first, like wanting to write about it. But after some years of college influenced self reflection, I started to create work that was solely based around capturing what it feels like to be alone in the woods. Another inspiration comes as just being a human. The human condition, people call it, living and learning how things come and go and the impermanence of everything. I think the way this influences me is through trying to capture sincerity, to capture a universal truth, a thing all humans can look into and feel part of. Finally, of course, other artists influence my work. I made this list of what I think are the big names, the artists who actually influence the work to the point where their influence is recognizable. While some of these artists are undoubtedly landscape artists, I think they do more than capture just that. From what I can tell, this group of names here have one thing in common: their work makes it easier to be in the world. The work is contemplative and useful. This Whistler painting in particular sticks with me. I think that it captures real human transience, what it's like to both exist and stop existing. In my first 2 years at UNF, my work was about exploring American loneliness, what it feels like to live shoulder to shoulder with strangers in an apartment complex. This work was very motivated by the landscape as it depicts moments that take place within it, but the series seemed to lead to nowhere significant. It was just depictions of my reality. But through this series, I began to understand how to utilize the landscape in a meaningful way, to paint landscape pictures that don't exactly just depict the landscape. Near the midpoint of 2019, I began the series called Blackwater. The series was a focused inspection on the details of nature and what it feels like to experience them. They were ethereal feeling paintings, meant to capture what it feels like to become the world around you. They utilize nature and the landscape as a language. The paintings aren't about depicting nature, but of the presence of nature. They operate as mood paintings rather than anything narratively driven. The series was heavily influenced by the retention pond that my apartment sits on. I found it to be representative of the way that nature lives with us now, acting as the spaces in between everything else. The process of making these pieces was interesting as well. They were very much process pieces made by paint application and paint erasure, tons of turpentine and rags, and then touching up what remained as to render something that feels related to the world I was trying to depict. The images almost revealed themselves to me rather than I creating them. It was a messy process, but I think the final paintings operate how I want them to. There wasn't a lot of planning though, and that is something I've made an effort to change in my current work, to go into each image with a plan. The new series I'm working on is going by the name Emptinesses, all pieces sharing the name Study for Emptiness. This new series was heavily influenced by the COVID-19 pandemic. After months of sitting inside doing perhaps overly genuine nocturnal landscape paintings, it all felt a bit self-indulgent, or too cut off from the rest of the world. COVID made me turn my eyes to the bedroom I was stuck in and begin to analyze how the landscape now functions as a thing that's not quite tangible, as we are sitting inside our homes all day. The series feels like an appropriate amalgamation of all the work I've been doing over the past few years. The series is about conveying through the landscape a sense of emptiness, to depict the distance between the viewer and the world on the other side of their window. I wanted to utilize symbols and text in the series as well. I thought that by including scribbles and haphazard writing, the paintings would perhaps become more intimate or relatable. The symbols I'm using are that of unplugged lamps, empty water containers, bar stools, phones, and other interior items I have found to have a sort of presence to them, objects that can take up space and not serve purposes, if a lamp is turned off or if a phone is turned off, something empty. By planning each image out before jumping into the painting, I find that the painting process is easier to control. It feels more precise, for better or worse. These are some recent sketches that ended up turning into the paintings in the series. I'm wanting to, with this series, depict the daily slog of COVID, the daily longing for the world beforehand. The paintings feel like death to me, like peaceful little deaths opening themselves up just to depict some kind of burial of everything. Through conveying emptiness, I find myself being led to think about everything but emptiness. The paintings feel to me to be about everything and nothing at the same time. Another topic these pieces address is that of coping, about getting through the day, about trying to take in a moment and accept it. They feel to me akin to the experience of standing in the woods at night trying to forget that you're attached to a body. Once again, ethereal feeling paintings, but this time attached to a larger, more human concept, an amalgamation. My future plans consist of graduating and then maybe camping. I imagine I'll just be wandering around looking for a spot I fit into. I want to eventually go to graduate school, but first take a couple of years to more develop my work. I'm also interested in artist residencies. I want to find some that would work for me, but to also create some in spaces that need them. I'm not quite sure yet, but I want to create more spaces in which artists can live. Okay. Thank you for watching my presentation. I appreciate your time and brain. You can find more of my work at morganmotes.com and my music at bigbestfriend.bandcamp.com. Thank you so much for your time.